This lecture is we will talk about human-computer design process. Okay. So the core concept of this is sitting around the diagram that we covered in the early lecture, duality of virtual interface. Okay, this is a simplified version of that. So there's two sides of that. One side on the left-hand side is a technology, and then they describe what the technology do. What is it? On the right-hand side, the experience side, this is what actually interface designs are involved. So this is what translates what technology can do and then what it actually does. Okay, so the purple link in the middle, okay, that gives you a sense of how they connect together. This is a very important concept for this unit because you do need to understand what the current technology will look like and what you try to deliver in terms of experience, in terms of user interface. That's why the focus is here, right down in the middle, human-computer action design process. So in this lecture, we're going to cover how is this going to merge between the two sides. Okay. So this is our outline key seven step of human-computer design process. Okay. So we will go through this one step at a time in the following slide. In the step one, you need to identify the user requirements. Okay. This one, you actually identify a problem of the interface application or the technology that can help solve the problem. Okay, referred to as the interface problem. So this is just to highlight, okay, maybe some things are missing. Okay, from the current application, maybe it's too difficult to use. Okay. Or there's a new technology available that could enable some of improvements in existing work, or actually a work that actually can introduce a new way of doing things. Okay, it's important to recognize that this is an interface application, so it's not just a random, not just any application technology. Okay, so interface part, anything that link between how people use, how the user versus the computer ends. Problems are not necessarily related to, not only related to a specific new problem, but it also can include improving existing application features. It's very important to that. So this is just give you an example of what we talked about before in application. I think I briefly run into this example before, so but this time we'll go into details. Okay, this is on the left-hand side here is a project that we are working with CSIRO a few years ago called Magic Map. Okay, this is about environmental sensor data. Okay, this is their capture of their screen from their web interface. Okay, the little drop point here, pin drop here are actually at the physical geolocation of all the sensor available. Okay, so I'll play a small clip here and highlight how the interface currently look like at that time. Okay, so they have a typical Google map, scroll, dimension, they can scale it. Okay, and now they start to dig into each of the site to look at the data. It might be a bit small, but they tell their location, they tell them what sort of sensor available. Okay, so they go one by one from site to site. So you can see here that different sites have different sensor type. So some of them may have. So this is one, you click it into one of them, so they tell you how many from the drop down menu, how many sensors available at that particular site. So this is a more general of how they were looking at the problem. Okay, looking at how to improve the current interface. Okay, so now if we go to step one, what is the user requirements in this case? Okay, of course, the user requirements for this one is actually with a large number. We try to understand the problem first. A large number of sensor station available. This is just in Tasmania, but try to imagine the sensor become much larger in the mainland. Okay. The interface is simply too many steps. We sometimes call it cumbersome. Okay, so too many clicks. So it's really really difficult. It's very good at you know precisely where you're looking at. Okay, that's very very important part. But but if you don't know that, that's really difficult for you to go and try to find out information from the website. So for our target audience for this one, it's actually for the user. It's basically for the design of this particular project is for the general public. So that's become a problematic for this one. Is that for most of the people that look at this website for the first time, will have difficult time trying to make sense or try to make the most of the data available. So they will probably just be randomly click on them. Okay. So it's this what we pinpoint in this particular phase of design as a poor user engagement. The step 2 here, okay. So now we take the step 1 that we know that is identify user requirements. Okay, so now user is a bit lack of user experience. They don't know what they were looking for. So we identify that in step 1, okay, that described in the previous slide. In the step 2 here, we are trying to determine the requirements of the interface system itself. Okay, what the interface system can do, software, hardware, etc. So the first thing, this step is really about the interface. Once your problem already defined, you would need to determine the requirements. Okay, this determine is not to determine just the technology to be used. This is really not about determine the technology. Okay, the interface system requirements can include the following that I list in the bottom. So it could be a software features, maybe a missing function, missing something, click something is kind of missing from the current one, or specific hardware. Okay, so this oftentimes maybe maybe a better interface should be used instead of using a web-based interface, maybe the head-mount display, maybe a sort of a location-based mobile apps, those kind of things. So you're talking about not specifically on the technology, but how people engage with that, what sort of system you're looking at. System doesn't mean hardware, it just means the way in which you want to engage with them. Okay, usability features, that's the last item that could possibly be included as interface requirements. So the user experience, okay, maybe a less cluster visual button. So I think this is similar to what in a previous Magic Map example, okay. Ability to walk around inside digital data. So this is the sort of thing that you want to define at this stage. So continue the example for Magic Map. So you already know from previous step user requirements. Okay, there's too many clicks, poor user engagement. Okay, then the next step, this step here, requirements of the interface system. Okay, so in this case, you can outline something like, okay, so we need to address this. We need to make the interface to be a unique instead of a unique user experience. We'll be hoping to lead into improve or better user engagement. Okay, so this is address number 2 in the previous step. Second one is intuitive design, interface design. This is address both of them. So this one would be easy to use. Okay, so that means that so it could be optimize some of the button clicks. Okay, so and it also in turn it could generate an improved user engagement as well. So this one is in somewhat a little bit of a gray area. So it address both of them, both of the problem user requirements. And then the third one is visualize the dynamic of sensor data over time and space. So this is really trying to get the information out. It does not address, try to address the number 1, okay, because number 1 is too many clicks because you have to move from one station of environmental sensor station to another station in a different locations. Okay, with this one, we try to analyze that actually instead you're looking one by one, you're just looking across the spatial domain. So I mean, we just look at the two multiple sites in the same glance. So that is we are hoping to optimize to when it clicks button, so people can see this in 3-dimensional space. Step 3 in our design process is to select the suitable interface technologies. Remember, the first step here is to really define the problem, okay, in step 1, and then now try to define the scope of the interface. Okay. Then now the third one is really trying to find suitable interface technology to match, try to answer that question, the prior setting up the question beforehand. So with this step is select a suitable interface technology. So as first, you need to consider interface technology available to you. So for example, in this context of this unit, there will be a virtual reality or immersive environments, or versus augmented reality. At the beginning, you need to understand pro and con, and also more importantly is what is best designed for, what those applications are designed for. So in this case, so what is a VR strength is, what is the AR should be used for. Then you will determine the most important, the most suitable interface technology that can be used. So you'll be trying to compare them and then try to addressing which one of that technology is the most appropriate to the problem you set up in the step 1 and 2. So this is continuing on from the magic map example. So in the previous step, in step 2, we are determining the requirements interface. That the interface that we're trying to address here, we need to have a first, unique user experience, and second, intuitive interface, and third, ability to visualize the dynamic of sensor data over time and space. Space means a geolocation. So in this step here, so the requirements here, we try to determine the technology. So in this case here, so you select the technology. You should have a way to justify them as well. So this is just example. So we use augmented reality. Okay. Remember this part of the technology part. Sometimes it doesn't have one single solution. Okay. It would be good. It would be important for you to recognize what's the strength of the technology you select and what is for to address the previous the stage that you have set up in the previous step. So for example, augmented reality, what it's looking to provide is a visual augmentation. Okay, so this will provide unique user experience. Okay, so this will be at the time that we developed this many years ago, there was not many AR application available to the general public, which as a state in the step 1, which is our target audience, general public. So having seen something overlay on top of another is quite unique. So this would directly address number 1 in requirement interface system, unique user experience. Then the second point of what AR, augmented reality, can do is the augmentation over physical maps. Okay, so this one is allowed them to visualize the sensor data over time. Okay, right on top of the space, the terrain, the map itself. So that is addressing the previous step number 3. Okay, which is visualize the dynamic of sensor data over time and space. Okay, so now that's a nice combination that we think might be offer some of the solutions for the problem we try to design ourselves into. And the second option here, the tangible user interface. Okay, so that's another technology we use in this applications. It's called tangible user interface. Okay, so this is somewhat provide a more interesting interaction interface. Okay, so this is all tangible means some sensor, some interface that actually you can touch and feel for it. Okay, so that's similar to your keyboard and mouse that has a tactile and then tangible sense of interaction. Okay, so this one is offer physical interaction, okay, coupled with visual augmentation in the previous solution. So that is addressing number 2, giving them a sense of intuitive display instead of have to learn the manual, so they're just moving some bits around. Okay, so that is what we set out to do as far as a design step for that application. Now, the next step here is a creative storyboard of the interface. Okay, this is a particularly important part of that application. Okay. Now, first thing is the purpose of the storyboard is to illustrate the different scenario and use case in which the interface is designed to be used in. Okay. So it could help you visualize, okay, just like your concept drawing, okay, it help you visualize the user interface, the idea. Okay. The third bullet point there is very important, but oftentimes are not really realize the significance of it, which is actually help communicate the interface designer idea to the entire development team. It sometimes can be very difficult and tricky for you to describe what you have in your thought and get it to people who can help you build them. Okay, like programmers, engineer. So storyboarding become a mean to get the concept out. The fourth one is storyboards should be told from a person or a view of person that representing your target audience. Okay, so so whoever that might be, it could be design an app for elderly, it could be for example, the Magic Map designed for general public. So you need to create those in interface domain. It's called persona. It's some characteristic that you built into. So you think on their behalf. What would those type of people would need to react in this situation? Okay, so there's more useful link that I listed at the bottom. Okay, and how to do storyboarding, user interface design. You will see a good, nice narrative of explaining a little more concept that you're interested in reading about that. So the next few slides here, I will go to a few examples that I think is useful to get you the idea what it look like. So this is from a project, okay, so that lists on the bottom there. So this is about creating a scenario, the use case. So this one is really about governments in the UK try to collect the data, try to gather more information for their GP, general practitioner, for that to be able to keep track of it. So you can see here how you read the story is from the top row from left to right, and then start from the second row from top from left to right again. So you can see here the projection, the scenario. So you can see that's a given narrative how people might be able to use the apps. Okay. This might not be completely linked to our unit per se, but just give you an idea. The drawing here could have a nicely drawing like this, or you could be hand drawing. Okay. So this is another example, hand drawing. This is from the example from the link that I gave you at the beginning earlier. So this is talking about they're trying to find a way to actually create a sale on a digital mobile platform. So what happens if you walk around, you see the sign, and how you get the sign to actually produce to order the product online. So you're talking about QR code, the scanning. I'm talking about the number 3 screen scenario there. So you see the window shop size sale, and then you actually can use the app. They can scan some sort of a QR code, and then basically get information from there. It is very specific design. So what the condition of this design is what would happen if you see the sale sign, but you don't really have time to go inside. You can order online like this. So that's how they design the app to try to fill that need from the user. So this one is on examples more on the using the VR. As you see, the same thing here. You read the story from left to right, and from the top row, and then the second row. Okay, so you can see here people will go in, they try to study. Okay, so they're looking at the VR, get inside the VR, they can pretend simulate this different situation. Okay, so so this one is give them a sense of how the VR can be useful for. Here is another applications, another AI application, mobile apps. Okay, so in this case here, story again, reading to left to right, and from the top to bottom rows. All right, so in this case here is about mobile apps that allow to translate Spanish and engage how to people to learn the Spanish based on the physical objects or real world object in the room. So you can see and read through the storyline there. And then also it's also produce another feature application that the designer think is useful. That is in the second row, the bottom row there. So that one is that it's sort of like a quiz that allow people to go to supermarket and take a look at different things and try to look for what is a chance give them. Let's find a certain Spanish words. So it's just another activity in which this one is allow people to learn more, or giving more opportunity for people to learn, but really more specific on circumstance in which they were using the application, the interface application. So the next step here is to develop proof of concept prototype. So in the concept of this is where most of our hands-on tutorial is currently provide this kind of experience. Okay. So as you're already aware, our units are centered around the development in the Unity 3D software, okay, which is technically should be coupling with some sort of hardware. Okay. So either VR device, headsets, or AR mobile device. The purpose of the proof of concept here should demonstrate the key feature of the application. Okay, so, not all the applications, so some of the key features. You don't even actually try to duplicate what you project or portray or illustrated in the storyboard concept. Okay, or just some of it that you feel is important. In the technical development project, you will demonstrate the key, the one that new, the one that no one has before, instead of a full whole application with saving function, payment system, all those sorts of things, which is, as you know, it's going to make it happen at the end. But it doesn't have to have that. So key part will be, let's say you build an AI application where they can do augmentations, where it make possible how to get the user, the next state of the user to kind of experience on it. All right, so this is a video that I'll run quickly to Magic Map. Okay, so this is after you designed it, the concept we used, augmented reality that we defined earlier. Okay, so now you'll be able to move closer. You can see different part information in one go, different set. Okay, and now come the tangible components, interface components of this. So this is just a simply turntable dials. Okay, something that you can rotate. There's no electronic copy except that the fiducial or marker on top of it. You might have seen that little black border rectangle. Okay, that's allow the camera that you see through here can recognize what you're trying to do, which dimension, which rotation is moving. So the dial has different functions. So you can see that when they move, they go in different way. They can select from a different temperature into a different part of the information that's available, maybe a sunlight level, radiation, wind speed, for example. One of the dial representing time. Okay, you can see the time here. So you can see the direction of the arrow, pink arrows are moving. So that would allow you to visualize across the space, which is part of our design concept. You can see that the change in different metric or information you measure, okay, with the time. So for the general public, this becomes particularly helpful in terms of sense that they can engage. Okay. So this is try to highlight the part in assignment 2 and 3 that you're doing at the moment. We only address the first 1 and 2, 5, okay, as I explained it in assessment. Okay. Now we are not touching on the step 6 and 7, which is the next lectures will be about step 6. So just want to be aware of that. Assignment 4, which is a group work, okay, that will involve the step 6 and 7, okay, which is once you got the proof concept in step 5, in step 6, you will share this, and then you will have other people test on it, provide you with feedback. And then number 7 here, you modified it, or you plan to and have a plan that you try to modify and change it. Some, let's say, the features that is missing. Okay, so something that's all help fixing bugs in the program, something that you must have it's working.